Winter is coming, and so is the king. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Entertainment. And some people would consider this show the King of Kings. And no, I'm not talking about Triple H. I'm talking about apparently one of the best shows that we've ever seen on television. And that is HBO's Game of Thrones. So we are here to review. We've got episode 1 right here, right now. Winter is coming, and we begin with three Rangers of the Night's Watch. So we've got the Night's Watch. It's basically this place where bastards go. If you're either a bastard or a despicable human being, I think you can be sent here, or you've got no family, they send you here. Basically, you're sent here to be a ranger and to protect the Seven Kingdoms, so to speak. So we had these three guys that were out on a hunt. They were looking for wildlings. Turns out they didn't find wildlings, but what they did find was White Walkers, and two of them died. One of them gets his head ripped off. The other one just gets, I think, his head ripped off too. The last one manages to run, and he deserts the wall. He runs beyond the wall, which is, I believe, punishable by death. And we see later, after getting introduced to Ned Stark, who is the leader at Winterfell. I believe his title is, what's Ned Stark's title? Lord Eddard Stark. So he is the Warden of the North. He protects the North. He's the main man in the North, but he's not the main man overall, because that would belong to Robert Baratheon.
There's too many main men in this show for me. There's too much going on. There's too many lands.
So Eddard Stark, we'll just call him Ed. Ed learns of this betrayer, this guy that has left his post, and he takes his sons. Obviously, he's got 4 sons, but one of them's a bastard, therefore he doesn't really count. He's like half a son. It's like 50% his son.
Which is mad to think that a bastard is getting treated like this. This is back in the day, though, when bastards were treated. Who cares now?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays in real life, 50% of people are probably walking around as bastards, whereas back here, if you were a bastard, it was like the end of your life. You were arguably better off being a dwarf than a bastard.
Yep, arguably. We'll get to that a wee bit later on. But Jon Snow, I think he ends up alright for himself, doesn't he, compared to the other ones? So
yeah, I think Jon Snow actually does no bad for himself, considering, but
that bastard.
They chase down the deserter. The deserter tells Ed that he's seen White Walkers, but Ed doesn't really believe him, and he has to kill him. He has to do it. He doesn't want to do it. Jon makes...
He's clocking in for his 9 to 5 here. He couldn't be arsed doing it, but it had to be done.
Jon makes sure that his youngest brother, or his second youngest brother, Bronn, watches it. He tells him, make sure you watch, your father will know that you didn't.
How's he going to know?
And then Eddard Stark has to tell Bronn, look, I didn't want to do that, but you have to understand why I had to do it, because I guess we just need rules, and without rules, everything falls apart. And if you let one person off with something, then all of a sudden you probably let more than one person off. And
then the next person thinks they can desert the wall or whatever this guy did. And then the next one, and then the next one, and then beforehand you've got a mutiny.
So it was tough love. We know Eddard Stark's not a bad guy, but he had to do this.
Beautiful guy.
They then find this dead wolf, and it's got pups, and they're going to kill the pups because it can't survive without their mother. But Bronn wants to have one of them, so turns out they find 5 pups. So it's going to be 1 pup for each of the Starks. Jon Snow doesn't get one because he's not a Stark. But then they find this runt of the litter that comes out last. It's like a 6th pup, and they decide that Jon Snow can have that one because it's a runt, just like you, as one of the men of the North tells him.
Is Big John the oldest then?
I believe John is either John or Rob.
So let's be real, right? Say Rob's the oldest and John the second oldest. All this blame getting put on John when it's fucking Ned's fault. At least if Ned had a kid first, then he didn't really cheat on his wife, but I think Ned has to take a bit of responsibility here rather than John. You don't agree with that?
Now, both John and Rob are 17, but I don't know who's the oldest. So we're not gonna, we're basically talking. This is inches here. It's a small 17. It's the same age.
Well, so Jon Snow is an inch older than
it might be an inch a day. Whatever the measured time.
I don't think it should matter. I think Jon's being treated very unfair here.
He is being treated very unfair. Then back in the North, they learn, unfortunately, the death of the Hand of the King, who who was a very, very close friend to Ed Stark, and this means that the king is coming. So the Raven bears the news of Jon Arryn's death in Winterfell, and the king is now coming to
lay the smackdown, tell him how it's going to be. Has he got an offer that Big Ned can't refuse?
Yeah, he's coming from King's Landing to Winterfell, and that means one thing. It means that Robert Baratheon is going to offer Ned the chance to become the chance to be his right-hand man, become hand of the king. And that's exactly what Robert Baratheon does. So we see Robert Baratheon come to Winterfell. He approaches Ned. Ned, obviously, everyone in the Stark family, everybody in the north bows down to the king. Robert Baratheon looks at Ned and goes, "You got fat." Ned doesn't outright call him fat, but he kind of looks at his gut and suggests that, you're a wee bit fat too.
What are you talking about, big man? You're fat as fuck too, Robert.
And it's weird because, like, obviously they're both like best friends and whatnot, but still, you can't really disrespect the king like that. And Eddard Stark, Ned,
especially in front of about 400 people.
Yeah, he knew better not to outright say, "Well, you're fat too." He just had a little glance and look at his gut. Then, and we can see in Winterfell that the King's people and Ned's people don't really get along. Cersei and Caitlyn, I mean, it's a lot of small talk, but they're not really, they don't like each other, they're not friends, they're never going to be friends. Robert Baratheon wants to go and pay respect to the dead, but Cersei's more interested in just resting. So again, it shows you that she's got
for 40 days, my lord.
Yeah, it shows you that she's got like a lack of respect. Whereas King Robert, he's still willing to go and pay respect to the dead.
He wants to pay the respect to the dead. Cersei just wants to eat and complain and shag her brother.
Yeah, they pay respect to the dead. Robert Baratheon pays respect to Ned's sister, who is in Winterfell. Robert Baratheon doesn't like the fact that she is here. He thinks that she belongs with him in King's Landing because that was his, I believe, not his wife. I don't know if it was his wife, but was it his wife or was it just his partner? I'm going to assume back here. I mean, he didn't really have partners. He kind of got married straight away.
So it must have been his ex-wife. Then she obviously she died.
But Robert Baratheon did mention that they were never bound by blood, but now they could be because he has a son and Ned has a daughter.
Maybe she died when they were going to before they got married.
But surely, if they were married, then they would have been technically they would have been family bounded by blood. Or maybe he just means they never had a chance to have a kid. And that's where the bounding by blood comes. Because I guess, just because you marry someone, that doesn't bound you by blood. But if Robert Baratheon had a kid with Ned's sister, then they technically would be bounded by blood.
Aye.
So maybe that's what happened. Anyway, Ned's sister's dead.
She's dead. Do we want to move the body? No. I mean, too much. So much. I mean, it took 40 days to get here. Do you really want to hump a body back with you as well?
Probably not. Ned, then he knows, he doesn't say to Caitlyn, he doesn't really want to do this, but if Robert Baratheon offers him to be the hand of the king, he has to accept it. He can't turn down the king, and that's exactly what Robert does. He doesn't want to do it, but when Robert tells Ned, "Be my hand, we can rule together," then Ned just agrees and accepts it. So that means he is going to replace Jon Arryn as the hand of the king. Now, we get a lot more scenes in Winterfell, but it's basically everybody just partying. We have Lord Tyrion, the midget, who is like some sort of sex freak, and he sleeps with all the whores, and Jaime Lannister doesn't want to be alone with the Starks, because I guess he doesn't want small talk. He doesn't like the Starks. Starks don't like him. So he says, "Look, brother, let's get this over with." And he brings all the whores to Tywin so he can get I guess he can have his fun early, and then that means later that night that he is there for the dinner. We also have a scene with Jon Snow and Tyrion Lannister, and they're kind of arguing over who is the biggest outcast, I guess.
I mean, we can argue Jon Snow all day long, but for me, it's Tyrion. Well, it should be Tyrion, but it's Jon Snow. Jon Snow's not even allowed in the building.
Tyrion Lannister says to Jon Snow, "Every dwarf is a bastard in their father's eyes." I like that. That was a good line.
Yeah, it was a good line, but let's be real. Imagine if Jon Snow was a midget and a bastard. I don't think he'd be still walking. That's the problem.
God damn it. We then get introduced to Benji Stark. He is the first ranger of the Night's Watch. So he's got I don't know, special privileges. I guess he can leave the Night's Watch because he's turned up at Winterfell. Obviously, he's Ned Stark's brother.
Well, I guess if he was called back for this, or he was aware of this meet, he's allowed to now.
Jon Snow wants to go with him. Jon Snow, I guess that's his goal in life. He's going to end up on the wall because he's not a Stark.
No one likes me, buddy.
So he wants to go with Benji, but Benji says, you're not ready yet, you need to stay here. But, trust me, one day I will take you with me. Later that night, Ned and Catelyn receive a letter delivered by Master Luwin. Honestly, there's so many characters in Game of Thrones, it's damn near impossible to name them all, but I believe this guy's called Master Luwin.
And there's one show, I think, that probably would have done better with loads of different spin-offs. It's probably Game of Thrones. But obviously I get it, when you have season 1 you can't really do that, but there's so much going on.
So much going on. The letter that comes is from Catelyn's sister, Lady Lisa Arryn, and again, she was the wife of the murdered Jon Arryn,
King of the Hand.
And she says that Jon Arryn was murdered by the Lannisters and they planned to conspire against King Robert. So basically, Ned now knows that he 100% has to accept the offer to be Robert's hand, because if he doesn't, then he can't really keep an eye on Robert, and King Robert might be the next one to die. So Ned now 100%, he told Robert that he would sleep on it, but now he knows he has to accept it due to what happened here.
It's a rock and a hard place, though. I mean, what can he do? He can't exactly tell Robert about it, can he? Just yet.
Yeah, he doesn't want to go. He wants to stay in Winterfell, but he knows that he has, in order to protect the king, he's going to have to go. We have then some other locations. So in King's Landing, obviously, where the king is, not a lot happens in King's Landing, but that's mainly because they travel. The King's Landing people travel to Winterfell, so we don't really get to see much of King's Landing. However, we get introduced to, I believe, in the Free City of Pentos.
In the Free City of Pentos.
We get introduced to Daenerys and her brother Viserys, who they're Targaryens, and the Targaryens used to lead. I believe their father was killed by Jaime Lannister. And I think it was their father that killed Ned's sister and King Robert's ex-wife.
Mistress.
So, I believe it was ex-wife.
Ex-wife.
I just don't think they had a kid. So, they want control back. They want an army. They want to take back the land. They want to be the rulers again. So, Viserys is trying to do that by getting the Dothrakis, which is basically this, I don't know, fucking this insane army, this cult-like people that led by Khal Drogo, a guy that has never lost a battle.
Big Jason Momoa here.
So Viserys is willing to do anything in order to get this army on his side, and that includes basically whoring out his sister. He says to Daenerys, aka Dany, that he would let every single Dothraki and their horse fuck her in the same night if it meant that he got the army and was able to attack King's Landing. So,
the funny thing is, though, it's not even a case of, we better exaggerate. No, I think he's being deadly serious here.
And we don't really see it, but there's felt a wee bit more incest here, like just the way he's undressing his sister, and
yep.
There's a lot of incest and shit like this in
Game of Thrones.
Now, I don't think it would happen in Winterfell. The Starks all seem relatively fucking normal, and they draw the line at that. But
that's when other people come to their house of interest.
Yeah, it's all the other weird shit there. We get the Dothraki weddings. Eventually, Khal Drogo does marry Daenerys, but he can't speak English. Apparently, the only word that he knows is no. So we'll see how that works out for him. Daenerys doesn't want to marry Khal Drogo, but I don't think she's got much of a choice, because if she doesn't...
How did the Fives go if he only could say no?
Damn.
That's him snookered.
We just have to nod, I guess, wouldn't he?
I guess so.
So they have the Dothraki wedding, but two Dothrakis, I mean, it's weird. The two Dothrakis are trying to have sex with the same woman. They end up having a fight, and one of them dies, but we get introduced to the guy from Resident Evil. What's his name? What's his name in this? John Mormont, is it? John Mormont.
You plucked John Mormont for someone.
Mormont. So Mormont gives a gift to Daenerys. He said that he served her father now that he wants to serve her, and he says that a Dothraki wedding that doesn't have at least 3 deaths is considered quiet. So this is normal. Dothrakis killing each other is normal, and I don't really like the Dothrakis. I mean, they're good fighters, but they don't really offer much, in my opinion.
I think if you've got a group that don't speak English and can't really communicate with anyone, they're not going to do what they're going to do, really.
Yeah, so it is what it is. We go back to the north then, and obviously everyone's partying. Cersei asks Sansa about potentially being queen one day, and she asks her, have you bled yet? Bit inappropriate,
Up
but
front.
we know that Cersei likes to do inappropriate things, so that's not really a big deal. Everyone's drinking, everyone's partying. We have Bronn, who's climbing Winterfell. He's been told about this numerous times not to do it, but he does it anyway, and one day he could hurt himself, he could fall, and who knows what could happen to him. And it turns out that eventually does happen. The next morning, Ed and Robert go hunting. They leave the castle largely empty. They take a lot of the men with them. And Bran decides that, well, you know what, there's not many people around, I'm going to start climbing. And he decides to climb the tower, but he hears moaning, so he climbs over to one of the windows. He looks through the window, and lo and behold, we have Cersei Lannister and Jaime Lannister, and they're having sex. Brother and sister, the Queen and her brother, engaging in a sexual act. Cersei spots Bronn and warns Jaime. Jaime Lannister runs over and grabs Bran or Bronn. I think I've been calling him Bronn. Fuck it, his name's Bran.
It's a weird name. It's a Bran.
Yeah, and he asks Bran what age he is. He says 10. He's like, oh, that's a shame. And then he says, the things I do for love. And I believe Bran's not going to tell anybody. He just wants to escape here, but he's not going to have that chance, because Jaime says, the things I do for love. And he pushes Bran out the window, and Bran just falls, and I guess it's like a 40-foot drop or whatnot.
Choke slam from the top of the castle.
So Jaime Lannister here, we don't know if he's a good guy or not, but I mean, this kind of confirms that he's willing to kill a kid. Although, I mean, if he doesn't kill the kid, then I guess he's taking a massive chance that if this news ever came out, I mean, if Robert found out that Jaime was having sex with, I mean, incest is bad enough, but he's sleeping with the king's fucking wife, so that's not going to end well for him.
And you know what, I think this scene kind of proves that they are plot. I mean, I'm not saying just because you're doing incest means you're automatically murderers, but I would say that there is definitely a plot for these two, maybe to get Robert out his big throne.
Definitely. We also had a scene earlier where Jaime Lannister was talking to Ned about a tournament and how he'd like to see him in action, and Ned kind of downplayed it, said he wasn't interested in tournaments. Jaime asked him, are you getting too old now? And Ned said no. He says he likes, when he fights a guy, he doesn't want his opponent to know what he has to bring to the table. So are we setting up a fight here between Jaime and Ned? Who knows?
I like this line though. I think it makes total sense.
Jaime Lannister's considered the best swordsman of all time. So we'll see what happens. Probably not a battle that Ned wants to engage in. If it does, it might cost him his life. But if it's to protect the king, he might do it.
It's the best incest of all time as well, big Jaime Lannister.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, that is it. That is the end of the episode. We've probably bashed Game of Thrones quite a bit in this channel without actually watching it. I do think it's a very good premiere, though. There's a lot of characters, though. I kind of like it when they introduce characters gradually, but I feel like in this episode you just get so many characters rammed down you here. But I still think it was a really good premiere. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too. I will match the 8. But I mean, I guess it's the show's calling card, but I think they just need to tone back a wee bit on all the fucking incesty things, man. I think I've not seen any episodes, but I'm willing to bet going into seasons into this that half of episodes is just going to be incest shit. And it's like Walking Dead. Oh, let's just kill walkers.
Yeah,
Game of Thrones is let's just do weird incesty orgies.
Yeah, like I'm not complaining about hot women, but I just don't think you need. I don't think you need like fucking 15, 20 naked women every episode.
Yeah, no, I think they feel it.
I get it. Tyrion Lannister likes to sleep with whores, but
yeah, we don't need it every episode.
I feel like that's what you get.
Yeah.
Any time you literally see Tyrion Lannister, it's with a chick on his side and a glass of wine in the other hand. So yeah, 8 out of 10. We'll obviously we'll see what happens in episode 2, but no major deaths really in this one, was there? I mean, we had, obviously, the death of Jon Arryn, which was off-screen. We had a Dothraki death. We had the deaths of the three guys on the Night's Watch, but other than that, there was no major death. Will that change next time, guys, out in episode 2?
I mean, maybe Bran's dead.
Did Bran die?
Did he land on a puppy?
Who knows? We'll find out, guys.
Maybe he'll end up a midget.
We'll find out, guys, next episode. That's it. Winter is coming, 8 out of 10. Catch you in the next one. Till then, though, peace.